Well, howdy.
Howdy, howdy. What's going on?
How's it going, guys?
Here, I got to turn my volume up, it seems.
Yeah, let's hear that post-vacation Brian sound.
Yes.
We need one of those. You remember, like, I guess it was from the most of the 90s, but you'd go to the movies, and then eventually on your DVD player, you would put a movie in, and it would have that, like, THX thing where it was like...
Exactly. Yeah.
There you go. Now we're ready to go.
But I don't want to... If I'm going to put in an old movie and listen to that, I want it on Laserdisc.
Oh, right. You know, I think we missed out on the Laserdisc. We had the DVD, then we missed the Laserdisc. I think, was that after? And then we finally caught on with the Blu-ray, I think, sometime later.
Yeah.
Here you are streaming them.
Look at this. Bruce is... He's just like a... He's like a millennial. So glued to his phone that he can't even... I'm going to hide that comment.
I'm going to let Bruce see it. Hey, Bruce isn't paying attention to that comment, then it wasn't meant to be. Okay.
Exactly. Wasn't meant to be.
Where is it? What's it say?
Something about a cough.
Yeah. Coughs are number 4 or something like that.
Or Cougs.
Huh?
Cougs.
Coughs.
God bless you. Is that a sneeze or?
COUG to the Final Four. The Cougars. BYU Cougars.
Okay. Yeah. Got it.
Yeah. Jason, it's possible. The problem is if they make it past the first 2 rounds, then they have to play my other favorite team, which is not my favorite team, but my second favorite team, which is Alabama. Assuming Alabama wins the first 2 rounds as well. So that'll be quite the game for me. But I am pulling for the Cougs at the Final Four. That's what I did in my bracket. It might be wishful thinking, but we'll see what happens. Starting tomorrow at 3:05 Central Time, 4:05 Eastern Time, 2:05 Mountain Time.
Look at this. He knows the exact times.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. It's been a fun year for us, but we'll see what happens. They'll probably, what they usually do is get everybody excited and then they lose the first round or second round, usually the first round. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, Cougs to Final Four, go BYU.
I didn't even know that. I mean, I guess it's March, so it's March Madness, but oh well.
Yep, it is.
I was
when your team's not not really in the thick of things, it makes it tough to even really follow it. You know what I mean?
I couldn't even tell you anything about, like, I don't watch college basketball, so
yeah, that's fine. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. Yeah, Grayson says Alabama to the Final Four. I've got them meeting each other in the Sweet 16, and I'm hoping for BYU. But if Alabama wins, I can't get too upset about that either. Although I'm hoping for BYU to win. But anyway, yeah, Ian says dang Cougs tend to break our hearts every year. That's true, but this year may be different. We'll find out starting tomorrow. Anyway, we're not here to talk about BYU basketball.
Well, it's the stream team. We talk about anything we want to. It doesn't even have to be about
that is true. That is true.
Beekeepers.
Literally, it's just the 3 of us. Yep. That's all. It's just 3 of us.
I mean, you can only talk about making splits and queen rearing, and I'm just kidding. We can talk about that anytime, all the time.
Yep, for sure.
Oh man, where's our dial it in?
I know. I had to look where mine was. You take a week off and you get all confused.
Guys. Let's get real.
Yeah, just dial it in. Dial it.
Brian, what's new with Brian in the last week? I mean, you look refreshed and, dare I say, sunburned.
I am.
Peeling.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I'm peeling. Face, shoulders were burnt. Back burnt. So I got the.
It wasn't from Northeast Ohio.
No. We had a good time. We spent the week down in Nassau, Bahamas. We were literally, where we stayed was right smack dab in the middle of the town. So I decided from where we were located at, I'm like, this kind of sites that we wanted to see, we were directly across the street from the beach. So I'm like, we don't need a car to go to a beach. So we ended up not getting a car, and we literally just walked everywhere. We were 800 meters away from their like fish fry kind of market area. So every evening we walked up, we had fresh conch salad, fresh fish, stuff like that. it was nice though. I mean, we enjoyed it. We did a couple excursions, went snorkeling and all that kind of stuff, and it was very nice. So, but we did, you know, this is the dog parents in us. We would FaceTime my mom so that we could see Eli.
Oh my gosh.
So the first like 2 times that we did it, he was kind of turning his head and looking, and then after that, he was done with us. He's like, I don't want to speak to you two no more. So yeah.
Did he leave you any treasure on the living room floor when you came home or anything fun?
No.
That's
Keith
good.
says
Go ahead
here,
and be mad then.
the taxis on Nassau are an adventure. That is the truth. The one that we had from the airport to the hotel, the dude was driving like it was NASCAR.
That's
Hilarious.
I lived in Ecuador for 2 years, and that's kind of how it is there too. If you're going up
Oh,
around
yeah.
a mountain, if you're up around on a narrow road, and there's 2 cars coming the opposite directions, if there's a third one, they just split and you go down. I mean, it's just like they just make 3 lanes out of 2. It's just
wild.
crazy.
Yeah.
So it's pretty wild, yeah. But
But-
we all somehow we survived. I don't know how, but
Yeah.
we did. So
It's good though, but here at home, let me pull up a photo if I can. I should have had it on my computer, but look at that.
Look, would you look at that?
got some
Would you look
flowers
at that?
blooming.
And look at that right there.
Unbelievable, Brian. Can you
So
believe that, Bruce?
that is my, every year we talk about it, but that is my early tree. So it's all like I look up the street, there's no other tree that's red.
Just that one.
It's just that single tree. So, but you know, and there's nothing much else here. Like the daffodils, nothing like that are up. I mean, our daffodils are up, probably 6-8 inches. There's no other flowers. It's that tree is always early. Now I'm sure there's others around the area because I went over and I checked my surviving 3 colonies today, and they look good. They were bringing in pollen. They had a steady stream. It wasn't like a couple of them. When I was sitting there looking at them, it was, you know, there'd be multiple bees on the landing board with pollen. So there's something out there. You know, it's yellow. It's that typically what we see this time of the year, but they were looking good. And I actually pulled some frames just to check, and this was in the medium. 2 of the 3 had 3.5 solid frames, both sides brood. And I thought, oh, thank you, you know. And then my one on the end, that it's always been my strongest one. And it's funny because that colony requeened itself in August. So the queen is, you know, I
Fresh.
mean, she's fresh. That colony in the medium super, there's 4.5 frames of brood up there.
Wow.
Now, I didn't pull any of the frames below. I didn't want to break the seal on the boxes just yet because next week, Bruce, you need to come to Ohio next week because we're going to have a high up here of 43 next week. So
I think I'll pass.
yeah, but that's why
We'll FaceTime you, Bruce.
those-
We'll FaceTime you.
Yeah, that
Put your head in
FaceTiming
the
is good
freezer.
enough.
We'll FaceTime you to be like you're here.
Yeah. I
Right
didn't
now-
want to break. I didn't want to break those boxes. Just
Right now, this is what we got going on, and it's what
well,
7:17. So
now hang on there, buddy. Hang on.
yeah, I was competing with that.
Oh, hang on.
Look at that, Brian,
It was
61.
80.
Hang on. There we
How
go.
did
Look at that.
68?
Look
Get
at
out
that.
of here.
That's cool.
Serious. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
We
take that,
got-
buddy.
we got some lows in the 30s and 40s coming up, but nothing.
Take
I
that,
guess-
buddy.
Yep.
Yeah. But no, it looks good. And I tell you, from how those 3 look, if they build up like I hope they do, and just Mother Nature has to be correct. Everything has to be correct with them. I probably will split each one of those 3 into 3. And yes, it's going to, put a little bit of a damper on my honey crop, but I'm just looking at growing the numbers in the yard. So I'll sacrifice this year some, but the yard will grow, and then I got the packages coming from you, Greg. So that'll be, if I can turn my 3 into 9, and then those 6 packages, I will split those to 12. That's 21 colonies right there. So it'll be fine. It's fine.
Sounds good.
But what's I need to hear more stuff about down south. Swarms. I need to hear
Yeah.
you know
Yes. Swarms. Yes. Mites. Yes.
oh,
Weak colonies, yes. Strong colonies, yes. You've asked me about any question, I'll say yes right now. This past weekend, I had the bee inspector come out. It was on Friday of last week,
wow.
and he went through. We went through several of our colonies down there, Greg, in the Slocum and Appleton Farms area where you came out that day, and he did some mite washes. Probably washed what 10, like 10, 15 colonies or more, and most of them had some mites in them, a couple more zeros. But they're starting to. I think we had 1 9, and then we had several that were like 3, 4, 5. And so I went ahead and I put Viroxin on everything. I just went ahead and treated them all, and so we're going to try that out. And I also set up a cloakboard cell builder type thing setup, and it didn't go quite like old Matthews. It didn't go quite like that. I mean, I just had a hard time anyway. And I did a dumb thing. I went ahead and treated that hive with Viroxin as well, and I think that it limits. I didn't have a very good queen acceptance at all because I think I just shouldn't have put the Viroxin in that cell starter. I think it probably had the bees a little bit, I don't know, agitated or whatever. I'm not sure that they just it didn't work very well. So we're going to try it again later. I don't really. What I want to do now is just start stacking honey supers. I've split them so hard right now. And I do have some really strong ones. When I went down to check my queen acceptance on Sunday afternoon, which I normally don't do stuff on Sundays, but I want to go check it and pull the board out of the bottom so it could make a queen right finisher. When I went down there were 2 swarms in the trees in Slocum, and so they were way too high for me to get them. They were up, of course, they were like 30 feet up. So they're just who knows where they are now, not in somebody's wall and for their house. But it's just been just gangbusters, just going crazy. And I saw now I'm like, I spent so much time trying to get my bees fed, get them split, get them treated, taking care of them, and getting these queens introduced, work on the genetics and the calming them down, that I think I'm a little behind on stacking honey supers. I normally put them on a little bit earlier. They're not really bringing in a ton of nectar. They're bringing in some, but it's really strange because, Greg, when you were here, we saw some nectar in the colonies. The bees had all the signs of really ready to explode, and that's normally how it is. But the trees are still, I mean, they might be starting to leaf out a little bit, but most of the trees are just still look like wintertime. We've got the clover blooming. We've got the dandelions have already bloomed. I think the red maple probably bloomed back in January. So there's a few of those around, but as far as like the big oak trees and stuff, they're still just bare. We don't have a lot of leaves on them. I think it's because of that cold snap we had. We had the snow, and then a few weeks later we had another freezing cold snap, and I think everything's just a little bit behind. And so I was talking to the bee inspector about it. I said, "Man, look around here because it's Slocum." I'm like, "Why? Just there's no leaves on these trees." And he said, "Yeah." He said, "I think they were 2 weeks behind." So it's bizarre. It's like the bees have built up like it's normal year, kind of. The strong colonies especially, but the trees just haven't. I hope they do actually bloom. Like the Bradford pears didn't hardly bloom. They just started leafing out. I mean, they bloomed a little bit, but normally they're just white. And not that the bees really utilize the Bradford pears, but they typically, when that happens, other stuff starts blooming as well. We are starting to see the pollen on everything. The yellow pine, I guess, is where that comes from, the pollen just on all the vehicles and stuff. And so we are definitely in spring, and the bees are building, and it's just been kind of a strange weather year. And so it's just been a little odd. I really hope that they bring in some honey because I need honey. I'm actually, of all that honey we had last year, I'm down to right at 20 buckets. And I started with 150 for the year. I had 155 last year. So I do need to have another good honey crop this year. And I hope I get there. I've split them down so hard. I've been trying to, really work on some things, and I hope I haven't split them down too hard to make a good honey crop, but we're going to find out because I've got to start stacking, and I hope I don't lose too many of them to swarms. It really is my fault. I just didn't. Normally I start taking honey supers with me in early March, you know, and just when, if I feel like they think they need, I put them on there. But this year I just was so concerned about taking care of my bees and everything we've talked about in the past that I just honey became an afterthought, which it should have been a forethought. So, but now they're all treated with Roxanne. Now I can really start focusing on that and trying to get them built up and ready to go. And we may talk, I'm sure we'll talk tonight a little bit about swarm control because people are probably beginning to experience the swarms.
Yeah.
And I'll just be honest, a lot of people really get super stressed out about swarms, and I don't want them to swarm, but I don't worry about it as much as some people do. I just don't, because, you know, the bees, I think I have hives every year, colonies that swarm. I never know it, you know, until I find an unmarked queen in a colony. I'm like, well, they swarmed or superseded, or I never even knew it, and they just plow right through. The problem is if they go into these swarming frenzies where they swarm and swarm and swarm and swarm and swarm all the bees out. But most of the time they don't do that. Most of the time they do it the way it's supposed to be done, and they'll have a prime swarm and maybe one secondary swarming. Usually then they build right back up real strong. So anyway, I did not film a video this past weekend. To be honest, I was just so, I just needed a little break from it, and I had a lot of work to do. And I just kind of spent my time with the bee inspector. That would have been a great video because he's a great guy, and he's a funny guy, and he does a real good job. But I'm like, I want to spend some time with him. I want to do my thing. And then I just had to get him treated and had a lot of things I was doing. And I just decided to kind of take the weekend and just me and the bees and not have to try and film it. I probably should have, but
yeah,
I just need a little bit of break because every week I typically am 1 to 2 weeks behind on my editing. And every week I feel like I have to spend almost every spare minute trying to edit, you know, during lunch and everything. And this week I just kind of decided to take a little break on that. So if you don't see a long form video coming out from me, that's the reason why. I may do a live Sunday evening if I get a chance, or maybe not. And then we have a StreamTeam next week, but
yeah,
that's what's been going on here. It's just been, you know, we're both guns ablaze. I'm a little behind. I always get behind. Either I get behind on my treatments and feeding and taking care of the ways through the winter, and I stack the honey supers on real soon, or I've been so concerned about taking care of my bees that I haven't been real good about stacking boxes on there. Jeremy Hartzog, the young guy that helps me, has been helping me some this year. He did help me put on some of the Roxanne strips, and he's been working on queen ring a little bit, and he let me have some of his cells. He just has been practicing on how to graft, and suppose it's a really good colony. We're going to find out, but I made 10 little 2-frame splits and some 2-frame nukes. Well, really 1-frame splits and 2-frame nukes, just to kind of see if we can get those cells mated and see what kind of queens they end up being. But he's just working on trying to figure it out, and he picked supposedly a really good colony to graft from. So I'm going to try it out and see how they end up mating with those queen or the drones down there at Applin Farms, and we'll see what we end up with. So that's another thing I did this weekend. So I've just been busy. And tomorrow I took tomorrow off. I switched tomorrow and Friday. I'm going to be speaking to some kids. I'm over at a little Christian school over here in Dothan that they have. It's just a small little private school, and they just have a farm day. I went last year. I'm going to go again today, tomorrow, and just kind of take the observation hive and just look at bees, I guess, a little bit and talk about bees a little bit. So that's what's going on in Southeast Alabama. It's busy.
Awesome. Mr. Burns.
It's been a week.
I
got a new hat on. Got a lot of really fun, exciting news. Some really awesome things going on here. It's been a great week so far. Monday night, I got to visit with Medina County Beekeepers Association and give a talk up there, queen rearing the easy way. And then the next night, Tuesday night, got to visit with our friends down at the Fairfield County Beekeepers Association to talk to a lot of folks about getting off to a great start. Then, of course, tonight's the StreamTeam. Tomorrow night, I've got a webinar with Dara Scott from Hive Alive. Hive Alive is putting on a webinar to talk a little bit more in depth about their products and spring buildup and having thriving bees. And they asked that I'd be a part of that and kind of share some of my experience as well. So that's going to be awesome. So stay tuned for that. We'll drop some links for that as well. And then, of course, the shop's open Friday and Saturday, 10 to 5. And so it's full on. It's like every Friday and Saturday is like an all-day speaking engagement because everyone's coming in and asking questions, and we're trying to help everybody get dialed in. And then guess what I heard? You're not going to believe this, Brian. I heard that the one and only Brian Coper is speaking at the Fairfield County Beekeepers Association next month.
Really?
Brian, that's like these are my people, and this is so cool to have you right here in our backyard.
Wow.
The one and only
Look at
Brian
that.
Coper. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be great. Gonna be great.
It's gonna be the best talk ever.
Oh, it's gonna be so good, Brian. So yeah, man, so much. So
do that.
lots of speaking engagements. I put a post out today. We've got a bunch more speaking. Get to visit a couple first-time clubs. The Summit County Beekeeper Association. That's coming up, I think, April 2nd. And then going over to the Miami Valley Beekeepers in May. And then help teaching a bee school down in Kentucky in May. And it's just, just powerhouse of a spring so far. And then, of course, we have all of the package runs and working on nukes and queens. And if that wasn't enough, we've got the Enduro Hive wax dip line that's just absolutely exploding. We've got dealers popping up. We're just we got a truck, a whole semi load going out Friday, and it's just nonstop. It's God's been good. The folks in this area they're supporting what we're about, and that is so huge. You know, there's not all wax dip is created equal. Not all nukes and packages are created equal. And so we've been doing it long enough where, folks are really helping spread the word and steering and driving people to us. And it's so awesome. We've got some really fun new products here. I want to invite everybody to come out to the shop this Friday and Saturday and check them out. A couple of them here. I'll show you one of them specifically is really cool. You might have saw this in the video from the Bee Expo. But we are dealers for Yes Honey, and there's so many great flavors. It's a soda alternative, but it's sweetened with honey, and there's no goofy colors or anything in it. So I really like that aspect of it. So it's a really neat product. Some really big news is we are also now dealers and distributors for. Are you ready? Drum roll, please. Barry Brown's barbecue sauce, folks, is on the shelf, live action. The one and only.
You gotta be kidding
Barry
me.
Brown, right? Yeah, we got his barbecue sauce here on the shelf, so I'm really excited about that.
Oh man!
And I can't seem to get my camera to focus. It's getting goofy. That's probably for the better because I'm tired and worn out and don't have all the lights here to help me look less wore out and tired. But really, some really big news. Is we are now officially dealers for true made in America extractors and extraction equipment. The one, the only Maxent. Man, this made in the USA. We actually went all the way to Massachusetts toward their manufacturing facility.
Wow.
Guys, they're not just buying stuff and reselling it like just about everybody else on the market who tries to market their products as American something. These folks, it's actually 100% American made. I watched them turn flat stock stainless steel, thick, beautiful American made stainless steel into these just extremely stout and tough and robust extractors. What a beautiful place. They've been doing it since the 60s, right? So they're not just some fly by night. Let's just put our name and a label on it. They've been making this stuff since the 60s. And man, it's just American made, designed, engineered, and actually made in the USA. Hardly anybody can say that. And what's really cool about their product line, it's the best warranty in the business. Lifetime warranty on their equipment. You just can't touch it. It's beautiful stuff. So it was awesome to go up, visit with them, learn more about their story, see how these products are actually made in the USA, not just put a sticker on something. That's a big deal. If we're going to make America great again, we've got to make made in America great again. Maxent's doing that. They've been doing that in a big way. So for us, it's absolutely, it's an honor to collaborate with them and now be a Maxent dealer here in Ohio. So yeah. So Yes Honey, I'm really excited about that. the one and only Barry Brown's barbecue sauce. You'll see it here. It's awesome. And then we've got a whole line of Maxent equipment coming. Some will be maybe on the floor even as soon as this weekend. And then we've got a huge sale this weekend on Endura Hive wax dipped equipment right here. Not all wax dipped equipment is created equal. Come see the difference. And we've got it on sale this Friday, Saturday. A lot of stuff going on. I'm absolutely exhausted right now. I've never been this tired, I don't think, on a live chat. I'm so tired that I wanted to just down a huge monster drink before we got on.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I have done that in the past, I get kind of get amped up talking about something. Somebody will say something and fire me up, and I'll get on the pulpit and I'll just run with it. And then I'll go home to lay down, and I'll get in bed and I'll lay there and I'll just be staring at the ceiling. Like I won't go to sleep for like an hour and a half or 2 hours. Right. And then the next day I'm totally toast. So I'm trying to avoid caffeine tonight. So we're going to get wild tonight with the watermelon caffeine free. Yes, honey. And see what happens. But as far as the bees go, south side of the maples are in bloom. Bees are bringing in yellow pollen. We were just, like I said, we're visited with the Fairfield County Beekeepers last night, and Chris Morrow leads that bee yard there. So shout out to Chris Morrow. There he is. Drop time, Chris. There he is. We kept him out late last night, or maybe it was the short story longs. Chris knows me all too well. I'll tell you a quick little story. I told Suze, hey, I want to take you out to dinner tonight. She says, okay. Jumped in the car, and I said, hey, we're going to take your little car. We went for a little cruise. And then we ended up at the Fairfield County Beekeepers Association. we ended up at Roosters because they took us out to dinner first, of course. So I got dinner paid for. So then I had to take her out to ice cream. So we went to ice cream afterwards and then got home. But it's God's good. We are extremely blessed. In no way, shape, or form are we complaining. He's just opening doors we wouldn't even know to walk through. And our business is just growing and growing and growing. And we're just along for the ride, doing our best, 1 foot in front of the other. And we're not even into the bees, in the thick of the bees yet. Like that's getting ready to kick in here. What I was going to say is Chris was mentioning at the bee yard there in Fairfield County. They're not even an hour from here. It's a really short drive from Lancaster up to here. They found charged queen cells in their colonies in Lancaster.
What?
I'm thinking, what are we? Right. And I'm thinking, like, do you have any drones? And they're like, well, there's a lot of cap drones. There was a couple drones running around on the frames. And I'm thinking, that is just goofy timing. But hey, we want to say that they know what they're doing. So let's let them do their thing, I guess. But
that's weird.
Anyways, what a great looking. It's going to be the greatest season, the likes of which have never been seen, Brian. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. It's going to be huge.
Everything's efficient now.
Everything's efficient. Yeah. Anyways, so guys, we have some questions tonight. If you're, we're gonna dial it in. We're bad boys. We're gonna dial ourselves in. That's how bad we're getting. But hey, if you got questions tonight, or just a Q&A tonight, Brian, what are we talking about?
I have no idea. Bees. Look at this one. This time of year, I don't know anything about this. I have a question for all three of you on how you would do this. My hive of bees are getting ready to swarm this week. What would you do? Queen cells will be capped this weekend. How would I probably missed the last part of it? How would
you manage this?
Yeah.
Or what would you do?
What do you think? You're Mr. Sam Mixon called today. He's from South Carolina. So Bruce, you're closer to that climate. What would you be doing right now in this scenario?
Man, that's exactly what I guess I'm seeing that since I've seen swarms in the trees already. I've caught one of them and lost. I had two that were way too high. So swarm control is something that I've always had some swarms every year. I know I have in my bees. I'm not real good at stopping it or, managing it. I've got so many colonies and so little time that I don't take as much time as I probably should going through and looking for queen cells and trying to really control it early. There's a couple of ways you can manage it though. And I'm not really sure I'm the right person to answer that because I've got swarms. I've been having swarms already this year. I didn't manage them very well, but One thing you can do is, if you're already at that state, you could split the colony, and you could take the queen away. She could be in you could take her with some bees and some brood and just set her across the bee yard, or just almost like an artificial swarm. And then you could, so that would be a split. You could leave the bees that are behind. You could break those cells down, some of them. If not, I wouldn't break them all down. Or you could even split into two, however many, as long as each frame has a really nice cell or two on it, you can make as many splits as you want, honestly. But if you just want to stop them from swarming and keep, maybe make one split, you can just kind of break them all down except for a couple. The only reason you can leave them all in there, but the problem is if you do that, sometimes they'll do the little I call them secondary swarms or cast swarms, where they may swarm 2 or 3 more times and you might get in trouble. But there's so many ways to manage swarms. I know that I've had a lot of people this year. The Demarest method has become everybody's talking about the Demarest method they call it for swarm control and honey production. And I've actually looked and see kind of what that is. I know some people do that, but I'm not sure if that's something you want to do after you already have queen cells in the colony. I've never officially done the Demarest method. I've done some things that were similar, but the only thing I don't like about that method is you take the bottom box, or you take a bunch of the brood and you put it up on the top above a couple of honey supers with queen excluder over the brood box, and you leave the queen basically just a couple frames of brood, and then you fill it in with foundation or drawn comb in the bottom, give her a place to lay. And what that does is, as those bees in the top box, actually, Jed at Jed's Beekeeping or Jed's Hobbies did a really good video on explaining this not long ago. But supposedly the bees, they all in the top, the brood, you move most of it to that top box, they all emerge, and then you've got a really big field force for honey production. That queen has a lot of things to do, and I've heard it's really good. I know people utilize that, but I don't want to have a lot of deep frames to harvest honey out of, and I can't do that with my colonies with all of them. I probably could, but I don't really want to. So. But I think just the best thing, I don't always even manage it. I'll break all the cells down except for 1 or 2 and kind of let the bees figure it out sometimes. Or I'll pull a split like I described at first, just kind of maybe take that queen away if I can. I like to do that, or just split it down and put queen cells in each colony and just let them kind of work it out, figure it out, maybe almost like a walk away split. And if you break them down and humble them enough, lots of times they won't swarm. But once they've snapped into that swarm mode, sometimes it's hard to stop it. So I don't know if that was wisdom or wise, or if that even made sense, but that's kind of some different options you have. And I am not super good at controlling swarms. I have some every year. Greg, what do you think?
Well, I'm kind of like a split personality when it comes to this. See what I did there? I wasn't even trying. This is getting silly.
He was a poet and you didn't even know it.
Didn't know it? Gosh, look at that. Brian, I like your style. I would say, Mr. Mixon, I would say, where are you at with equipment? Do you have enough equipment to go ahead and split them out? Can you handle more colonies? If so, then you go about this a certain way. If you want to keep it constrained and kind of, if you don't want to grow and don't want to go any further with it, then I would get in there and shake the bees off the frames and knock down every single queen cell and give them some more room, add a box. I would first go through and equalize all your colonies. So if you've got one that's jamming on the verge of swarming, snag slabs of sealed brood right out of that colony and move it over the other one, kind of open them up a little bit. But just know eventually they're going to be heading back to the same scenario. That's what healthy bees do. So you got to make up your mind, what are you doing here? But I would consider, if you want to split, what are all the signs there? Do you have a good, the thing I think that no one really thinks about, and I talked about this a little bit last night, and I talked a little bit about it on Monday, but, raising good quality, anybody can raise a queen, right? But it doesn't mean it's going to be a good or a healthy or a quality queen. Even the bees, if they are raising queens this time of year, they could be beautiful. However, you got to think about all those bees that are going to be nurturing all those new youngsters and also the queen. Is your colony in a situation where they are nutritionally squared away? Have you had enough pollen coming in? Good. Do you see a lot of bee bread? Are all the signs there? Do you have a lot of drones, mature drones running around the frames? You can't just scratch open the drone cappings and look for purple-eyed drones. You're really cutting it, I think, a little too close. You got to get a little further than that down the road with the maturity of them. So if you're going to turn it loose and let these rascals swarm and do their thing, that's totally cool. Is it time? Do you see drones? Are they going to get well mated? The other thing to consider is, what are your goals? Are your goals to split? Are your goals to simply stop them from swarming? Or are your goals to pull a honey crop off these bees? Knowing what your goals are dictates kind of how you go about this. Brian's in a rebuild year, so he would use it as an opportunity to split and go. Bruce is going to be working on capturing as much honey as he possibly can. So he would, and also get numbers back up from any kind of win or loss. So, he may decide to go either way with it. For me, it depends. I would probably, I could go either way. If it's perfect weather and a lot of pollen nutrition coming in, and the extended forecast for the next 2 weeks looks like we're now warm again. And in the nighttime, if you go on the back porch and you're comfortable in shorts and a t-shirt, right? And it's not too cold, man, you just let it rip on the splits. But you got to know what it is you actually want out of it. And then you dial it in accordingly.
Yeah. One thing I've found is, at least here, a lot of these bees, if they swarm early like this, they almost don't even skip a beat. That's one reason I like doing early splits, because you can pull a split out of a colony, sometimes even two good sized nukes out of a colony, and it almost will slow down the swarming instinct, I think, a little bit, because you're taking population away, and they still just grow and make a honey crop. But the later you get in the season, obviously, the less opportunity they have to build up enough to make a honey crop. And so it's just tricky. I know that I think that, from what I've heard, and I've seen some people comment on the Demoran here already, and I've had people telling me, I did a video this past weekend on how to read a frame, going through a hive frame by frame. And it was really it was a fun video. I took my time, frame by frame, just went through and described every frame, what I was seeing. And hopefully it'll help some people out, especially beginners. But I've had several people, that colony was so strong, tell me I should have done a Demoray on it, but I just really didn't want to do that. I may try that one day, or I may do it with some of mine this year. I've thought a little bit about it, but I really just don't want a bunch of big, deep honey frames. Now, if you run all mediums, that won't be an issue, but I like the principle of it. I just haven't ever really done it. I used to run a triple deep system, which had kind of a similar principle, where you just have a massive workforce, which is how you make a lot of honey. But the problem is, and Sam kind of described it there, they build up and they're so packed out with so much population that they're going to swarm. You got to do something. And so that's kind of what I ran into every year. Some of my bees they just swarm because I don't get them under control like I need to. But those are just some ideas, Sam. I hope that helped. And then, of course, you can, I don't do a lot of this anymore. I probably should, but you can have a swarm trap sitting in every bee yard or near every bee yard that you can catch some of those swarms with, especially the ones that end up high in the trees. If I don't get to my, I'm usually at least a week in between going to my bee yards most of the time, sometimes even 10 days to 2 weeks. It's usually 2 weeks at times. And so I know I lose swarms I never know about, but if you have a couple swarm traps kind of surrounding your bee yard, sometimes that can help maybe catch some of those swarms, especially if they end up high in a tree. I've caught a lot of swarms that way. I've caught some of my own swarms that way. And it's interesting, Greg and Brian, sometimes when they swarm, you go back, you just never even realize it until that queen was marked. Then all of a sudden you have an unmarked queen in there, then they probably swarmed and they just took care of it themselves, which a lot of colonies will just take care of it themselves. But sometimes they don't. Sometimes they fizzle out and they become drone layers and they just don't do well. So anyway, I hope that was, spent a lot of time, but that's kind of my insight or my thoughts on that. Yeah. Brian, what do you think, man?
What I normally do is, it takes a lot of timing, but I normally do more or less just an artificial swarm. I watch them and I watch them and I watch them, and I wait until the cells are starting, and I'll make sure the queens are still in there. And then, Greg, thank you. Pat, thank you. Let me go ahead. Oh, that's start. Okay. And then I do the artificial swarm. Now, I've always been, up to this year, I've always been very conservative on my splits. I always move the queen over with 2 frames of brood, 3 frames of brood, and leave a lot back. But I've always created like a Royal Rumble scenario too, where, like I told you guys before, I'll look in there and that's exactly it. Like I'll look in there and you hear like the rings of like John Cena flying off the top ropes and that. 'Cause I'll leave
Dun,
18
dun, dun,
cells,
dun.
and I'm not going to do that anymore. Every single year, it's been like the last 2 years, I hear you guys saying you should crush them down, leave 2 or 3, and don't create like a Royal Rumble like that. That's what I'm going to do moving forward. I'm going to set them up like that. But since I'm going to be in a building year, basically, if I open up my colonies this year and I see frames with cells splits, I'm going to be in that mode this year where I just am going to split the tar out of them, and that'll pretty much humble their swarm tendencies, but again, like Greg, you said, it all depends on what you want to do, how much you want to grow. If you don't want them to swarm, then there's things you can do, but for me this year, it's just going to be, I'm going to have to probably put 2 times the amount of work that I normally do into my yard. But yeah, look at that. Text Blaine, hashtag Brian 500. My wife would just literally, I might be able to quit my job then if I do that. But
That's funny.
yeah. But yeah, there's so many different ways that you can go about that. Yeah. What else? What did Pat say here? Welcome 2025 Beekeeping. Yes. Going into year 2, excited to expand my apiary this year from 3 overwinter colonies to 8 to 10.
Wow.
Very easy. You could do it. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
3 new packages coming and 2 new queens. Oh, right there. Yeah. Thanks for all you do, Pat. We appreciate that. Yeah.
Boy, Pat, you've got a gold mine of hard lessons learned. If you just cruise back through all these, even just the last year of the StreamTeam there, you ought to pick up enough nuggets to save yourself a whole lot of weeping and gnashing of teeth.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh. Carmen here.
Brian, stop doing that.
Oh, man. I've been like this, though. Seriously, today I felt good enough that I'd left the house. So, yeah. Have you ever used OAV as a primary treatment during the nectar flow over the course of several days instead of other treatments? Look at, we got the millennial down there glued to his phone again. I'm using this on him tonight.
Who?
I take a week off and look at this. It's like he just runs rampant now.
Who is that?
You. I'm talking about you, buddy.
What am I doing wrong? I'm actually trying to respond to stuff in the.
Oh, okay. Oh,
and actually Toby Reeder just sent me a picture too. I think she's a brand new queen he did in one of his walkaway splits. I think it's a beautiful queen. So I'm working here, guys. I'm not just scrolling on my phone. I promise.
I thought he was slacking.
I thought he was watching basketball, checking in, seeing if his bracket's hitting.
No, that'll be tomorrow when that starts.
He was looking for the final.
Here's a picture of Toby. I'm not sure if you can see that. Toby sent me that. You see that queen right there?
Wow.
So I'm not sure if that's a brand new queen or if that's. I think it may be one of his new queens from a walkway.
Like an Easter egg there. Yeah.
She's got a green marking, but I think it's green. But anyway, she's pretty.
Turquoise. I saw those colors in the ocean last week.
No, he said made her on a split last year, so that's one of his last year's queens. That's why she's green, I guess. But man, she's just she's beautiful.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm just trying to multitask here, fellas. But I promise I'm locked in.
Brian, you're gonna hurt his feelings now. See what you did, Brian? He's up there working for you, and now
I take it back.
Yeah, I'm just gonna take my queen right dial and go home.
Unbelievable. This is too much. Come on, guys.
Right.
Take it
Patch
back.
it up.
No, let's lock it in.
Yeah, Carmen, as far as treatments, this just me personally. I use several different. I just like to switch it up. That way they're not, so to say, developing a resistance. Now, I don't think that there's any research out there that says that there's any type of resistance to oxalic acid but I just always switch things up. That's just me. I normally, like early in the season, like right now, I normally don't use OAV as my primary this early. I use other stuff, but that's just me. So, yeah. Now that one over there who's multitasking and he's, he's probably on, I don't even know the betting sites. What are they? Bookies or something, bookie.com, or what's the,
No, I've never. I
what's the
don't
betting
gamble.
thing? I don't
I
know.
don't even
Whatever.
know. I don't even know.
DraftKings is one.
DraftKings. Yeah.
Hey,
Bruce.
Greg, you know that. That's impressive.
I know.
I'm trying to think where I've heard that at.
I honestly don't have any
How did I
idea.
know that? DraftKings.
Yeah. So, but that's just me now. As far as like, now, Bruce, what made you go to the Varoxan?
Well, right now we're in the obviously brooded up, and it's a one-time treatment. You stick it in there for 6 to 8 weeks, and you're done. And it's kind of like Apivar in that respect. You don't have to. It's much more. It's about. It's. I think it's probably a similar price to Apivar, maybe not quite as expensive. But it's just it was easy. You just actually it's almost easier than Apivar because it's just a long strip. You just put over the hive, you stick it down, it goes right down in between the frames, and it was very, very easy to apply. Whereas OAV, theoretically, now if you just want to keep them steady, you can hit them, maybe every so often. I know some people. I know actually Jeremy, I think hits them like once a month or something. Or actually, Jeremy's in here. He just says he's going to hit his the next 2 to 3 weeks. But I thought I like the idea of just putting it in there, stacking my supers, and not worrying about it. And that's what I'm going to do. So that I've never tried it before. I'd heard good things. My buddy Tyler Walker down here tried it, I think on just a small sample size. He didn't do it on maybe just a couple of colonies to see how it would work. And he had a really nice knockdown when he tried it. And so, I do think it's pretty stout when you first put it in. Going back and looking at the bees a couple of days later, you could see where, it definitely had a little, they don't like going right around the OAV strips, but I think or the oxalic acid strips, but I think the Varoxan strips over time, I think, by the end of it, it'll be no big deal. And I just thought I'd try it. And so when the bee inspector went through, I'd already ordered it. I planned on doing it. It's something you can do with the honey supers on. And I'm going to start stacking honey supers. And I just thought it's easier than trying to hit them with OAV in the middle of the spring when they're building up. So that's what I chose. I could do the OAV. I could hit them every 5 to 7 days for 4 or 5 weeks, and it would probably hold them steady or knock them back. But I listened to a video that Ian did a few months back, and I think he was actually going off of Randy Oliver's model. I guess Randy Oliver has a model where you can put in, it's like a graph, you can put in the numbers of mites, and then it can project kind of over time how many mites you'll end up with as the season progresses. And one thing I've done a very poor job of really up until this year historically is I think I knock the mites back pretty good during the summer and fall, and I get them way down. Even in the wintertime, I think I knock them back pretty good with the OAV treatments. And I think coming out of winter, Greg came down here. He was here a few weeks back, about 6 weeks ago or so. And the numbers were good. They were really good. They were well within threshold. So then I started to get confident. I start doing all my spring stuff, my splits. I start stacking honey supers, and I just don't do anything else for mites until until I take the honey supers off. And then by the time, that's usually late June or early July. And by then, the numbers have ramped way up again. And when the bee inspector came out and checked these, I had some of them were like zeros and 2s, 3s, but I had some that were 5, and I had one that was 9, that's the 3%, which is going to be, that'll end up being, that's the very top of my threshold. I like it to be much less than that. But then imagine how much more that hive would have in it by June, mid to late June or July, when they start to decrease in numbers. The mites have built up, and then the numbers of bees start to go down, and that's when you have your problems. And that's what I've run into every year in the past. So my goal is to finally listen to people like Ian and Randy Oliver and people like that, and hopefully get the mites down right now. When the bees are building up, keep the mites down, and then maybe in June or July I won't have a problem, and I can keep them controlled and maybe my bees will be more healthy going into the fall and winter. Maybe I won't lose as many, but we'll find out. It's going to be a matter of checking and seeing. Randy Oliver said to use a test group or a control group, and I didn't do that because I just want all my bees to be treated. So I do have, I think, 4 colonies up in Ozark that I didn't have enough strips for. I just didn't make it up there. And so those hives have just kind of been ignored. So that might be my little tiny control group up there because I don't do much with them. They just kind of are on their own up there. So we'll see how they do. They might all be dead. I don't know. I haven't been up there. I may go up there tomorrow or Saturday and see how they're doing. But those bees up there have been neglected greatly.
Bruce is like turned into like a wild man.
Why do you say that?
Just no control groups. You're just like doing this.
I know. Just doing this
stuff over there. Bees in the trees. Just like a wild man.
Yeah, there was a guy today on a social media post that showed a picture of a box of bees it was a beautiful box of bees, and he talked about, treatment free, and I know a lot of people believe in that, and I asked him how the attitude was, and then he mentioned about how, that they're not too bad, but then again, people in California care more about productivity than attitude, and I just said, look, I mean, I'm okay with treating. I said I'm okay with treating, and he said they're not bad. He said they're somewhat defensive. They're not bad, and but I'm just like, right now I'm willing to treat if I can get my attitude down. I want to work more gentle bees, and so that's what I'm working on, and I don't mind treating. Some people, it would be ideal. It would be great if we didn't have to treat, or if we didn't think we needed to treat. But my opinion is, after experiencing great loss with not treating, that it's just, to me, I'm okay with treating. I'm totally cool with that. And it's just, if I had a herd of cattle, or I grew up on a horse farm, and, whenever you domesticate an animal, or you bring them into your environment, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And so, if you have your cows, you're going to treat them, you're going to feed them, you're going to take care of them. If they get sick, you do what it takes to get them better. And I know bees are theoretically, they're an insect and they're a wild animal, but still, when you put them in your boxes, you've taken them out of their natural environment. They're not in the trees. They're not doing things. They're not spread out like they normally would be. And some people are willing to, and Greg, you work on this a little bit with yours. I mean, you're really trying to dial in the genetics, and some people that treatment free, that's what they want to do. And they really take the best queens with the best attitude and the best mite control, and they work on that. I just don't have the time to just I don't have the time to really go through and look at everything and just select and then breed. And I just don't have the ability or the time to do that right now, and to really focus on that. So I'm okay with bringing in queens that have the traits that I like, whether they be from Greg or from Zach or whoever it is, and put in my apiary and try to get those traits I like. And then in the future, if I have time to do that, and maybe a little bit on along, I'll try and start developing my own stock a little bit. But it's just so hard for me to really analyze and select and do all that and breed my own queens. It's just difficult for me to do that. So to each their own, to each their own. And treatment free folks, I'm totally cool if you want to do that. And I think it's a great thing, and I think you're doing some good things. But in my case, I don't have a problem treating my bees. And I don't think anything less of those who don't treat if they're having success with it, and they shouldn't. I don't think they do, but they shouldn't judge me for treating as well. That's kind of
there's an awful lot of posturing going on with those type of things, because a lot of the argument quickly becomes, well, if everybody was using this line of bees, then we wouldn't have a problem with the bees, and on and on and on. But that's kind of the case in point. That's totally not true, and as a massive cop out. I know I've spent over $1,000 on queens and trials to bring those kind of genetics in, and they did fail. They did flop. Not only were they extremely aggressive, that would nearly put you in mind of Africanized bees, but they didn't prove out. They weren't keeping mites off. Their daughters weren't. Their daughters' daughters weren't, and their daughters' daughters' daughters weren't. So after you get to an F4 of actually putting in the work into some of these queen lines, and they're not taking care of the mites, and they're ugly, and they're beyond chippy, and they're running you out of a bee yard, and you still have to treat them, what's the point? Show me a bee that is keeping all the mites off and is workable and is productive, that you can send to this part of the country and this part of the country and this part of the country and get the same results. Now we've got something. But all of these queens with these purported qualities and attributes, if it was a thing, everybody would be on board doing it. So you can't use the excuse, well, if more people were doing it, then this thing would become a thing. That's not true. It's also a disservice for those who are towing those kind of lines, to those actually queen breeding and have been for a very long time, and the thousands and thousands and thousands of queens a year. They know what they're doing. They know what they're looking for. They know what attributes and qualities and characteristics are important. And if there were lines of bees that were keeping thresholds low enough to where there was no viral transmission in the colonies, and the bees were actually calm and they were productive, and those traits are getting passed down to daughters and then granddaughters, and guys, this would be all over the place. Everybody would be doing it. But you don't see that. You see very niche pockets working with some of these genetics. I would love it. I would love nothing more than these genetics to actually show themselves all over the place in all of the regions and actually show up, but they're not. So we just got to keep making the best choice for your goals and for your needs, whatever makes more sense to you. I would, knowing that, I mean, you're going to have to treat, very likely has to have to treat hygienic bees, and the trade-off is having bees you can't work versus bees that you're still going to have to treat but you can work. I mean, where do you draw the line? I know what I had to do to toe that line, what we had to do to try to get into the F4 daughters. And that's the other thing. A lot of folks are buying these queens. They don't realize that they have to have a genetic program and get into F3s and F4s and F5s and F6s to get these things to actually prove out and to set. Most of the beekeepers who are the target audience, they're not doing it. They think they're going to buy a virgin or they're going to buy a mated queen of whatever line that this is, and that's going to fix the problem. They don't know that they have an enormous amount of work ahead of them, and a lot of them don't even have the ability to do those kind of things. So I would love it if if there's a queen line that shows up that can do all this work, that can actually do it. But don't be getting fired up and talking poorly against folks who do treat, because they're the problem, because these bees that you say work don't, you know.
Yeah, once again, we got to be careful. I'm totally, people, if you want to do that, if you're happy with your line of bees, I'm just roll with it and just do your thing. But I just want to say that I've just kind of bought into, I'm going to treat my bees. That's kind of what I'm doing now, and trying to get, I'm working really hard on the attitude and still hoping to have productive bees and make a good honey crop. And the mite situation is third or fourth in line of what I'm looking for. And, you know, Greg, you mentioned that some of your bees, even though you don't really say this, but you mentioned that some of your bees that you've really, you know, you've treated them, you've worked with them, you've really worked on certain genetics, but you've had some pretty low mite counts on a lot of yours that you've worked with. And I'll be honest, the bees around here in Alabama, the feral bees are really, they're quite hygienic. I mean, as far as I don't have, like, they do pretty good with the mite control, but they're just, some of them are just off the chain. And so, you know, and someone in here mentioned that isn't the part of the treatment free group, isn't it, that they deal with the mites through the colonies? I think there's some of that too. So I am not set on one way or another. I just kind of, this is what I'm doing. And I do think it's good for people to be doing research and working with this. And some people they just don't mind working those bees. And I haven't minded it too much in the past, but I'm just trying to shift a little bit in my focus a little bit here. So I think everyone just needs to kind of, as Greg says, there are no absolutes. I think everyone just needs to kind of respect each other. And, you know, there is a treatment free Facebook group, and people get on there and they just, like, treatment guys will get in there and just kind of start talking bad about, but I mean, it's not, why would you do that? It's like these people, this group is for people who are trying to do treatment free stuff. And if they want to do that, then all power to them, let them do it. And same thing with people who do treat their bees. If the treatment free people get in there and just start ripping them up for it, I mean, come on, everybody, just kind of do your own thing and work on it. And there are people that work really hard at this, and they are willing to drive their bees to areas where they know, you know, that they know they're the bees they want, the drones they want. There are people that really put a lot of work and time and study and effort into this. And I respect those people a lot in both camps. And so I think we just need to everybody, let's just try to kind of get along. And someday maybe we'll be able to develop a line, you know, that has all the desired traits. I know a lot of people are working on that. And And but for now, that's kind of where I'm at with everything. And I have a lot of respect for folks that are doing the different extremes. As long as you're putting effort into it, you're trying to do the best thing for the bees. And that's what really matters the most, I believe. But just be careful. I think, Greg, you made a good point. If you are a new beginner beekeeper, or if you're buying quote unquote treatment free bees from folks, just be sure to just check them and watch them and still maintain and manage them. Don't just think that because you buy bees from a certain person that you're never going to have to treat and they're going to be perfectly fine and super healthy bees, because sometimes you end up having to take care of them and treat them. Just really monitor and evaluate those bees. Don't just assume anything. Because once again, if you bring a bee out of, let's just throw out the random state, Montana. Say you bring a bee out of Montana that's a quote unquote treatment free bee, and you bring them to Georgia or North Carolina. There are other variables. I mean, it's a different environment. You have different other bees around. You have different drones around. You have different weather. You may have different. I don't know if you have different viruses or not. You could theoretically, right, Greg? You could have different. They are exposed to an entirely different environment, and so those bees may be fine in Montana, but you bring them to North Carolina or wherever, and there might be something totally new they've never been exposed to. Mm-hmm. And so you just have to be careful. It's people get so fired up about it and so, polarized about it, but there's no reason to be that way. People just respect each other and just be a good steward of your bees, and continue to evaluate and monitor them, and until you find the traits you like, and then just roll with your thing. Yeah. I hope that makes sense. I hope that wasn't too much of a soapbox, but
no,
that's kind of where I'm at.
You know what you're saying there, like moving them around, that kind of piggybacks into DC's question here. Have any of the experts thought about tracking regional mite loads to see if some regions have worse levels than others? I listened to just recently, Fred had Jeff and Randy on. Mr. Ed and Randy were on. And if you didn't listen to it, it's worth a listen, because Fred would ask a question and Randy would I texted him afterwards because I was literally cracking up laughing. And Fred would want like the answer and to analyze it, and, would want to just dig into it. And Randy would be like, "Yes, Fred." And Jeff would just start busting out laughing. But they were talking, one of the things that they spoke about in that interview was just that, like Mr. Ed was saying, he never has treated. He doesn't, he said he doesn't know whether like his area and that region that the mite levels are just low. Maybe it's something with the environment, who knows? And like Randy said too, he said, I don't do anything. So I don't know whether it's a certain region. I don't know, but that makes me think of DC's question there. Are the levels higher in certain regions of the country?
Brian, I've got an idea.
What's that?
I feel like I shouldn't have to say this, but I'm going to say this anyways.
Say it.
I would love nothing more than to have bees that do such a good job with mites that we don't have to treat them, and that we can work them without having to put chainmail on. Yeah. So anyone out here, if you are a treatment-free beekeeper, or you have some super duper calm, hygienic line of bees that you actually think will perform somewhere else, then I encourage you to please reach out to me. You can go right to our website, hit the About Us, or the Contact Us, send me a message, and let me know how many queens that I can purchase. If you legitimately have queens and a queen line that you can say, after X amount of years of working with them, are calm, and that you don't have to treat them because the bees do all the work, then please reach out to me and let's have a conversation. I've tried for years and years and years, and I've put that out there so many times over and over again, and it's like crickets. No one shows up. So if you're out there and you're listening to this, and you got a little fired up because we're not very supportive of treatment-free queen lines, then I encourage you to reach out to me, and I'll put them in an isolated quarantine yard, and we'll work them, we'll run them, we'll see what they do, and I would love nothing more than to actually find a line that actually did that.
Yeah. I know. Years back, I didn't stay on top of my treatments like I should have. And the mites, they annihilated my yard. I know up here, if we don't keep that under control, then, I can't afford it. So, but nothing against, like you said, nothing against treatment free. They have different things that they do, though. They don't just let them go.
Yeah, that's key. They put a lot of
them-
work into that. So
Some of
that, I
them do
mean,
the brood breaks and everything else, so they have a certain
so
system that they do.
yeah, I don't want it to turn into it, because some of those guys really really work hard at it, and a lot of them don't mind dealing with some spicy bees, and if you don't mind it, then that's your prerogative. But I think the key is the combination of mite resistant plus gentle it's just, that's where the happy medium is. That's where it's been hard to find, at least more than one generation. Like Greg said, until you go 3 or 4 generations, 5 generations down, how do you really know if it's really going to be successful? You might have one queen that's very mite resistant. I think I have bees right now that are mite resistant, but is the great granddaughter of that queen going to be, is that queen also going to be mite resistant? That's the question.
Just needs thicker glasses to see him. That's great. Yeah.
Mr. Ed, he does his thing, and he I'm sure he loses some every year. He doesn't mind, and that's fine. That's fine, man. Just do your thing, and he makes a lot of honey. He's successful. He doesn't worry too much about it, and it works for him. And so it's not a big deal. It's his deal. It's what he wants to do.
I want to quote Greg Burns. I need to pull up the text, that way I get it correct.
Oh boy.
Let's see here.
You got to watch. If I get 2 or 3 yes honeys into an evening, you never know what I might throw out there in a text message.
It says, and this is a direct quote from Greg Burns at Nature's Image Farm. It says, "Don't worry about a thing." And then there were little music notes after it.
Because every little thing is going to be all right.
That's right. That's right.
Look at the StreamTeam singing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I like that. There was another question in here, and it was directed at you, Bruce.
Oh, no.
Oh,
that's
man.
it. Get them fired up.
Look at this.
That's a great question. That's good for me, but it's good for all of us, I think.
Bruce, how do you prefer to replace older queens, using cells? What's your process?
What is your process, Bruce?
Hold on, I got a cough. Hold on.
Uh-oh. Let's
hear it right in the mic. Let's hear how wet it is. Oh my gosh. Bucket of oysters there. Woo!
I was pretty sick about a week and a half ago, and I feel pretty good, except I just can't shake this stupid cough. But well, I don't set out with the idea, hey, I'm going to replace my old queens. Every year I know that some of my queens just get replaced through supersedure, because I have started trying to mark most of my queens. If I see them, if I have any idea what year they are, I'll mark them. And sometimes I know that when I go back in there's a queen that hasn't been marked, or no evidence of being marked, may look like a really young queen. I'll know, well, that queen got superseded or swarmed. And so every year I know that I've had several probably that have done that. And number 2, I have also done what I call blind splits, which is where I will, I'll just take a double deep and set one hive off on a pallet somewhere else and move it, and then just leave one. I don't even look and see where the queen is. I drop cells in both colonies, and just see what we end up with. And my understanding is, and I'm not sure how true this is, but I think it probably is true, that, if you drop a cell in a queen right colony, and that cell emerges, and I think if the older queen is at all damaged, or if she's getting old, I think sometimes that virgin queen can get to her and kill her, and then take over the colony. I don't know. I've heard that happens. I don't know for sure. And then, of course, the colony that doesn't have a queen in it, you hope that cell emerges and becomes a queen of that colony. So that's another thing you can do. Number 3, if I have a colony that I see the queen failing, if I see the queen that just a real spotty breed pattern, or if I have a queen that's undesirable with a really high mite loads, or just a sick colony, they don't build up, they're not a real productive colony, or if I know that queen is really old and she's beginning to fail, I'll try to just pinch her and replace her with a new cell, or this time of year it would be a cell or a mated queen. later in the summer, I found I pretty much need to use mated queens because cells just don't do well after, like after about June on. It's tough to get cells to take down here. It gets hot and humid, and the honey flow, it gets nasty and difficult down here. So that's kind of what I do. And every year I do have some that that fail, some colonies that die out, I think because the queens get old and fail, and I never know about it. But I will often see supersedure cells in colonies, and the colony may be starting to fade a little bit. And many, many times I come back a couple of weeks later, or 2 or 3 weeks later, and there's a brand new little queen in there laying up. So I don't go through actively and try to pinch every old queen and replace her with cells or mated queens. But throughout the year, I think a majority of my queens usually do get replaced. And the only way to know for sure, because I got so many, I don't keep track of what they all look like, because I've got queens that are yellow and queens that are almost black. And so if I have a mark on them, then I know for sure what year that mark was placed on that queen. And so that's one way to tell at least how old that queen is. Now, say, for example, it's July of this year, and I go through a colony and I see a queen that's unmarked. Because I don't get every queen marked every year, I'm not 100% sure how old that queen is, but I'll go ahead and put a blue mark on her. And that way I know she's at least, a 2025 queen, if not older. Like when I start breaking into colonies next spring, I'll know at least she's at least whatever year old. But that's just the best I can do. And I've tried it. I keep markers. Like right now, I've been replacing quite a few queens. The new ones that I know from Hawaii, I'm marking them with blue. And anything that I see that's a really mature queen in a colony that I didn't put in there as a mated queen, because I haven't done a lot of cells, I still am marking them green, because if they're an old mated, if they built up a strong colony already, they probably haven't been a new queen from a swarm this year. But really soon, you're not going to be able to tell, because we've got swarms happening. We got supersedure starting to happen a little bit here or there. So that's a long answer to a long and complicated answer, but I don't have any scientific or specific way I do it. I do believe, though, I think both of you guys will probably agree that if the average queen age is so important, if you can get an average queen age to be younger in an apiary or in a bee yard in your operation, I think you'll have healthier bees overall and more productive bees overall. I think it's good to try and keep that, to try and replace them. I think that some people have 4-year-old queens that are still progress, but I think the older the queens get, you run more of a risk of them failing, of having not the success you want. I think if you can keep them fairly young and vibrant, my experience is sometimes even the year of the queen is made, sometimes that's not the best year. Maybe the next spring, like queens that are about, Greg, I don't know what, 6 months to a year and a half old, to me seem to be kind of in their peak typically lots of times. And then once they get much over that year and a half to 2 years old, many queens will start to fail. At least that's been my experience. Like I love queens. I love queens like from last year that were either in the spring, or especially those, if I happen to have some new queens from like last summer, post solstice type queens, those queens right now are just killing it. They're about 6-7 months old, but it's hard to get those sometimes. So I think if it's, if they're about a year to 1.5 years old, I think they're really good queens, and they typically, if they're well mated, they'll do a great job that next spring. But then you get up in that second spring where they, like for example, if I got queens this year that are really super productive and they're still in the hives next year, those queens are going to be more likely to swarm. The older they get, the more likely they are to have that swarming tendency, I believe. And so I like to keep the average queen age down. I'm trying to get better at that. Since I've tried to do that, I've had stronger and healthier bees, I believe.
Greg, what do you normally do?
Funny story, not real funny, but it's a story. I grabbed this. So check this out. This is it's a queen cell caddy. It's a 12 volt, right? You plug it in the truck when you go down the road. Why am I showing you this? Well, because I'm going to show you what I did last year. Okay, so you open this dude up, right? And it holds, is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it holds 45. So it holds, standard full frame of cells, if you're doing 15 per cell bar. So here's a not so funny story, but on point in too many ways. Sort of an uncomfortable scenario. I've mentioned it before, but I pull into a yard of hygienic bees, a hygienic test yard, and before I get out of the truck, bees are flying all around the truck. I get out of the truck, didn't have my jacket or veil on because I don't have to do that with my bees. Or maybe I'll throw a veil on and I've got a jacket in case someone's squirrely. Anyways, you get out, the bees find you a couple 100 feet away and they just start doing that swirl. They swirl in your face and bopping and swirling and bopping. And it's just, that's before you even get into the colonies. You start cracking the lids and it's just like there is all out artillery shells being fired. They're just bing, 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 bing. It's kind of like Bruce's worst colonies that I had seen years ago, just nonstop, just a battery of artillery. I got so upset. I got so mad. And I'm going through the yards that day and I had extra queen cells. That entire thing was full. There was 45 queen cells just waiting. They were hatching out the next day. So if I was going to go ahead and make some splits or do this or do that, they were ready to go. I get to this yard. I got so mad. I got so upset that I cracked the lid on every single one of those colonies and I took a queen cell out and dropped it right in the middle of that one, put the lid on, dropped it, went all the way through that yard. And every single one of those hygienic queens were replaced with a queen cell off of our Appalachian mutt line. That's it. That's the end of the story because every single one of those requeened and they accepted that new cell. Why was the take rate so great? I have no idea. But that was a really easy way to just crack the lid, drop a queen cell, and then get that genetic line tuned back up. In about a month and a half or so. Here's the thing. So sometimes you have bees that are ugly because it's the queen, right? She just has an attitude problem. She has a bad day and she's rubbing off on everybody and everyone else having a bad day. Now they're talking to their sister poorly and it just is a domino effect. And sometimes you can replace that queen and the hive almost immediately turns a corner. Sometimes you have to get through an entire brood cycle, 45 days plus after that queen starts laying to get through all those old bees because sometimes it can be a genetic issue. But a lot of this that I had seen, the behavior and a lot of them were turned around as soon as that new queen was laying eggs. Like it just completely turned around, which is a really interesting concept. Like, what exactly is causing the aggression? Is it the queen? Is it what the vibe she's putting off? Is it truly genetic? Is it actually passing down to the workers? But anyways, that is one requeening method that has worked very well here. But you almost do it out of spite. You're so upset. You crack the lid, you drop the cells, and you say, "Sort it out, suckers," because otherwise I'm throwing you into a burn pile. I'm so tired of you. So that can happen. But I think it can work. But sometimes you maybe have to go through more of a rigmarole. You might have to go through and pinch a queen and then knock down queen cells and then reintroduce a queen, and it all depends.
Yeah, I've heard those virgin queens are almost like assassins. They can go in there and it makes kind of sense in a way because the mated queen, and tell me if I'm wrong, this is my understanding. So this might be something for those who may not know, or maybe myself, maybe I don't know, but a brand new emerged queen doesn't have a real strong pheromone. Is that correct? And so, she might be able to move through that new colony, even if it has a mated queen, they're a little easier than another mated queen that's been laying. You put a mated queen in there that's got a strong pheromone, and they may wrap her up and just ball her real fast. But you put a queen cell in there, and that queen emerges pretty quickly, and she starts moving through that colony. And those things are fast. Those little virgin queens are fast. They're almost
assassins.
athletic.
They're rogue assassins.
I think they. And so my belief is, and I've heard that they are just assassins. They'll go find that old queen and dispatch of her. And the old queen is going to have a more difficult time because she's got the fat abdomen. She's geared towards laying eggs, and the virgin queen is not mated yet. And so, is that true that they're just they're faster, they're quicker, and they can go in there and take care of that mated queen sometimes. However, I do wonder if you've got a really strong, a really good mated queen that's just in her prime, if the other bees will ball that virgin queen before they ever had a chance to get to the. I don't know that a virgin queen versus a mated queen, the mated queen is going to win very often, just because of the big bulky nature of her abdomen. I don't know. It might be tougher for her to try to curl to sting. You know what I mean? But I've heard that virgin queens, I've heard you can walk them in the front of a hive and they'll just go in there and just absolutely take care of business and become, become the new queen. And so the fact that happened in that apiary of yours, Greg, kind of is testament to that could be true. And
it's when they hatch out here, because we do a lot of work with virgins. If they're all hatching out at the incubator, and I'm pulling the cells out, what I do is I mark every single virgin a certain color. I know what it is, what's going on. And then if they progress to the next round, and they're going off to actually get inseminated and everything's successful, then they get a glued dot. But when the queen cells are all out and that you can see them all starting to hatch, right? When the trap door hatches inside the incubator, they come out and they go back into the queen cell. So you can either, tear those queen cells open, or what I do is I just kind of stage them out here out on the desk, and then let them crawl out. And then it's a process. If there's 30 or 40 or 50 of them that you're going through, I kind of lay them out and then try to keep my eye on the movement and see, okay, when they finally come out, then I'll grab her, then I'll mark her, then I'll put her into a regular cage. But what happens is sometimes you take a phone call, right, or a text message or something, and you didn't see that a couple of them got out. They can find themselves very quick, and they can go to war immediately. I've seen it, and they are so nimble, they are so fast. They are nearly a camouflaged assassin in the colony because they don't have anything going on. Now, when they get to their about third day of life, everything changes. Now they start to become more recognizable. Their colors get much fuller. Their abdomen starts getting a little bit larger. But for those first 2 days specifically, I mean, they are literally just camouflaged ninja assassins if they want to be. So you got to imagine those rascals are so fast. I mean, they are so fast. They are so nimble. And here's something to consider, like that is inherently in their created behavior is to murder each other, right? We're mated queens. I mean, yeah, that was in their behavior, like when they were hatching out. But as they get old, yeah, they can still fight. They can still do all those things. But those young virgins, it's almost as though they are just predisposed to be fighters early on in their life cycle. And they do it very well, very, very fast. And they'll get up on there and they can curl, they can get all the way up underneath her, and they can just go to town. So, Bruce, I'm with you. I think it's totally within the realm of possibility for virgins to sneak through. That's maybe why it works so well. You drop a queen cell in there, she hatches out. They say, hey, what's going on? You're supposed to be here, but she's nothing special yet. She sneaks around. She's got the mission objective of murder. She's got murder on the mind, and she finds the queen, and it doesn't take long. How long does it really take for a virgin queen to latch on and pump a few stings and get some venom inside of a mated queen before it's done, right? It wouldn't take that long. But what's interesting is the hive mind when that happens. Like, okay, do they stand by? Do they watch? Do they help? Do they say, no, don't do that? Do they kill the virgin? Do they see that there's an attack going on and just piggyback and then start, I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, look at that.
Yeah,
Sneezing fit.
I agree. And it makes sense that in the survival of the fittest that nature has, that would be the case. The younger queens are going to last longer, and ultimately, so it all makes sense. But that's interesting conversation, and I do tend to agree with that. So thinking of this, that is one way to requeen queens. I think that even if the mated queen ends up victorious, either way, you're going to have a good, strong queen in that colony, because, I think that's just a good way to make sure you have a good, strong queen in a colony. So if you have a colony that's failing, just drop a queen cell or two in there and just let them figure it out. And many times you'll end up with a queen that's just rocking and rolling, doing a great job.
Talking about virgins, Clay here asks, hey guys, what does the temperatures need to be for a virgin queen to fly? Go on a mating flight?
I don't know, Greg, that's a question for you, but I do know queens get mated in the spring when it can be, fairly cool. Obviously if bees are flying, they have to be flying. It has to be warm enough for them to fly, but I don't know if there is I'm sure there is a minimum temperature. What do you think, Greg?
What I see here is when we've got the days in the 70s and we've got virgins running around, that first day that hits 80 and it's warm, you can almost see, how do I explain this? You will see entourages of bees coming back because it's the queen and an entourage with her after a mating flight. So I think when you hit 78, 80 degrees, everything starts to change. You get 3 days of 50 and the soil warms up, the trees wake up. You get 3 days of 70 and you get the spring peepers and everything else rocking and rolling. When you get into that day in the 80s seems to be a prime mating window, which is also why even during the regular season, typically we're going to see mating flights, right in that early afternoon time frame. When it warms up really nice, then and the sun is a certain perspective, they go to town. Not to say they can't go out at 11:30 or 11 a.m. or 10 a.m. to mate. I'm not saying that they can't, but we typically see a lot of mating activity right after lunch, like right before to right after lunch. And then as it gets a little bit later in the afternoon and it starts to warm up even further, then it sometimes kind of tails off. But I think that's a great question. I think temperature is definitely a trigger. Yep.
Oh, what did I do? I made stuff go away. Mr. Steve. He's curious.
What a question.
Yeah. Basically, what this question is, and Greg has said this before, he's asked the question, are bees racist? Were you trying to change strains of bees? I've had issues getting mostly Italians, have issues accepting Carnies and Saskatraz. Like all of my, I think the last time I brought any queens into my yard that weren't from you, that'd be 2 years ago. So that would have been what, 2020 would have been 22. So yeah, I have heard that though, that certain lines do not, so to say, mesh with others. Yeah, I have heard that. I can't specifically say, like there, I don't have enough experience to say that, well, Italians don't mix with Carnies. Like I don't have any type of a chart with little X's and check marks and things like that with the specific lines. I just try and avoid specifics anymore. Like if somebody says, oh, they've got Carnies or they have this and that, I prefer to go in the direction like what Greg is doing in his place, and you more or less have, he calls it a mutt, but it's a hybrid where they're handpicked for certain specific traits. So, and anymore too, I think not unless you're on an island or you're in such a remote location. Like now I know Randy Oliver, he has such remote locations that, okay, he can control drones and all that kind of stuff. So you can really pinpoint, but not unless you're in those unique type areas. How can you say, okay, my bees are this, they're this? Because how do you know what they go out and mate with? Now like your area, I've seen, the geographic layout of your place, and you've pointed out, okay, this is set up here and that and there. So how you're doing it, Greg, it's like it's been, so to say, like very strategic placement, but I don't look for just specific lines anymore. It's just, I pick up my phone and I phone a friend.
I had it's interesting because if I'm not mistaken, I was talking about replacing queens in some of my spicy colonies, and I got the new queens from Zach in Hawaii. And Zach, I think, mentioned to me that sometimes those bees have a hard time getting introduced to darker bees, which would be, of course, my Alabama mutts are mostly dark, or your carnies, or your whatever. And so I think he mentioned carnies particularly. So there probably is. I know, Greg, you've talked about, you've said bees can be racist.
Absolutely.
And there probably is some truth to that. And it makes sense that, that might be the case if they can sense the difference in genetics.
Yeah.
That's all part of their survival strategy. And so I'll be honest, though, I didn't have a real issue with my bees accepting his queens. It's kind of interesting how now I have had a couple, a few since then that they're trying to supersede, or maybe they weren't very happy with for whatever reason. But for the most part, the acceptance rate was really high this spring, both in the ones that I used his queens to make splits with his from last year, and also the ones I just used with local bees that were spicy I'm trying to fix. And so I was pretty impressed with the acceptance rate, but there's got to be some truth to that. It makes sense that when you're trying to change over from one race of bee to another, there might be some issues.
Bruce, we got problems going on here.
Major problem here.
Yappy, all I got to say is rise and shout. The Cougars are out, and roll tide.
Wow, look at all the stings and everything.
Wow.
That's right.
Unbelievable.
Yappy, there is a possibility that my favorite two teams will meet in the Sweet 16, which is going to be the very cool. I mean, knowing what'll probably happen is one or both will lose in the first round, but maybe they'll meet in a couple of games, and we'll be able to have a good time with that. So, anyway. Yeah, Jed says go Cougs. That's right. Jed's right there in Utah as well, right there in that BYU area. I don't even think Ohio State's in the tournament, man. So you just you practiced that.
I was sitting in the
Yappy, I've practiced that many a time. I've said both of those things many times. Rise and shout, the Cougars are out, and roll tide. So
I was sitting in the Nassau airport, and right across from me, 3 guys, and they weren't even together. It was just like, it was beauty. First kid sitting there working on his computer, Ohio State. Next guy comes and sits down, and I swear he could have been a ball player because this guy was pretty big. Sits down, Ohio State. Next guy, I looked down, Ohio State. And I looked at him. This was in the Bahamas.
I was going to say, was this in Cleveland or was this in Columbus?
No, it was in the Bahamas. And I was just like, I looked at him and I said, I feel out of place here. And the bigger dude in the middle, he kind of turned, he looked at me, he chuckled. He said, you got to get on board. I said, oh, no. I said, I'm on board. Other than I said, my hat and shirt, and that's all at home in Ohio. So, and he was like, okay. And then, I had on my Spartanburg Beekeepers, and when we were sitting in Baltimore, struck up another conversation with folks about beekeeping and all that. So it was just airports were wonderful, but Ohio State's everywhere, buddy.
It is. It is.
Even in the Bahamas, people are loving on Ohio State.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of Alabama fans out there, and you'll see BYU fans everywhere too. So it's but Ohio State won the national championship. You got to give them credit, in football. So you got to give them credit. I mean, they were the best team this year. There's no doubt about it. So anyway, this got off track, guys. We're supposed to be talking.
The greatest best playoff series ever.
Dial it in, fellas.
Nobody can defeat teams like that. All other teams, they're losers.
Okay, great.
Brian is still unburdened by the things of the past. Hour and 36 minutes, guys.
It goes by so fast every week.
Can you believe it?
Well,
I've seen a lot of names in here, guys. I've seen a lot of names I recognize, and even a few I don't. I know I've seen Jed in here quite a bit. Jed he was Jed's Hobbies, now it's Jed's Beekeeping. He's out in Utah out there. I've seen Glade in here from Utah. Jason from Utah representing. They're all BYU fans, which is awesome. Of course, we got Yappy in here and so many more. I mean, Tony West, Brian Lee. I mean, Grammy's in here. I'm not even going to begin to name everybody because I'll forget somebody. But we're so glad
like
you're in
a
here,
movie star now.
Yep. He is for real. You know, for
Yeah.
those who aren't familiar, Yappy and my buddy Tyler Walker and Adam Hickman from Foxhound, and then a couple of other guys here in Alabama were actually involved in the filming.
All right.
Involved in the filming of a movie with Matthew McConaughey. It's about a beekeeper, and they filmed it right here in Alabama. And those guys actually managed the bees during the movie. They were kind of helping everything, and they provided the equipment for all that. And it's a really cool movie that's going to be coming out. So be looking for that. I can't remember what the name of the movie is. It's Yappy. Tell us the name of the movie in there.
I hope they spell Yappy
Just a
B
bit of
Man right
information.
in the creds at the end, and don't make it like Happy
I
B
know.
Man or something else. Like,
I know if they mess it up.
But it looks like it's going to be a really good movie. Well done. Of course, if McConaughey's in it, you know, it's going to be phenomenal. And so, but there's a really cool picture of them that they took with them. And I don't know the names. There's two other beekeepers from Alabama that were involved. It's a really cool picture of them all hanging out standing there with Matthew McConaughey. And it's just really neat. It's
cool.
really a neat thing. And I wish I would have had time to be involved with that. But, because I know Tyler real well. I know Yappy real well. And I know Adam pretty well. The other two guys, I may have met them, but I don't know them as well. The Rivals of Amzai King, and so it's going to be a pretty cool movie. So be looking for that. It's going to be a big screen. It's going to be a big production coming out. Yappy, do you know an estimate on when that's going to be coming out? We'll see if Yappy gets some screen time. I'm not sure if he's going to have some screen time there or not, but I do know we're managing bees and managing the equipment and everything during the movie, actually in the presence of Matthew and in the staff and in the crew and in the
that's pretty cool.
cast.
Honestly,
That's super
cool.
That's extremely cool.
Yeah.
Yappy says no date yet. Yappy says. So anyway.
Something like that. I mean, that's like a once in a lifetime ordeal, you know.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That is pretty cool. Yeah. Tornado warning here. Be safe.
Heads up, Greg and Brian heading into Ohio next. Well, Carol, thanks for letting us know there.
We have in Northeast Ohio, we are supposed to have snow coming tomorrow. So there's going to be a 50-degree temperature drop in about a 28-hour period.
Oh, that's brutal.
Yep. So the rain's going to hit here. It says about 3 a.m. But yeah, it's let me see. So Thursday, we're going down to a low of 28. So I expect Bruce, he's probably going to want to fly up just to experience that. Yeah,
we've got tomorrow. It's supposed to rain some. I guess we're going to have a low of 43, and then Friday it's going to be a low of 37. So we're going to be in the 30s and 40s at night, but it's going to be up in the 60s and 70s in the daytime. So
yeah.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Sure.
I mean, this is really personal, so you don't actually have to answer it.
It's just us three
because it's personal in nature and such. But you know, we all look at the weather on our phones, right? Am I the only cheapskate that has like the free weather channel one, and you get these stupid pop-ups all the time that you can't see into the daily or the hourly, or like I'm just using the weather channel app on here, and you can't do anything without like acting off of a game or something silly. Am I the only one, or
download the app My Radar, and it's free, and it's really pretty good.
My Radar.
It just has, you can look on there, you can see the radar of all the storms coming in. And
Greg, I use the weather channel one also, and yeah, I mean I get ads on it, but
you guys do have a lot of storms coming. It's coming in.
Yeah.
Pretty nasty.
No, I will say the weather here, and this played into my decision of why I didn't want to look in my deeps today. Yeah, that looks nasty. We have next week, so we're going to go down to Saturday. It's going to be 46 with a low of 23 here. And then Monday we have 51 with a low of 33. But then all next week we have 43, 44, 46. So it's in the 40s next week. Now, I did look, and after Friday the 28th, then we have 50. And then every day after that, it's like 63, 58, 60. So we've got one more week of this cool weather, and then I think things will probably start to ramp up around here. We'll probably start to see, some buds and different things like that starting up here. So, but
Hey, I sent you, Brian. I sent you that picture of on Castle Hives on Messenger of the Matthew McConaughey with those guys. The three of or
yeah.
2 or 3 of them, which we know personally, and then so the people that are in the picture are, of course, Matthew McConaughey, and then we have Brian Booth.
Look at that.
Yappy B Man. So Yappy, Yappy. Not sure which one's Brian. Justin Hill's in there. I'm not sure who Justin is. Tyler Walker is on the. He's the guy with the baseball cap between Matthew and Adam on the right there with the red shirt. Tyler's the guy with the black shirt and the hat behind them, and then Adam Hickman from Foxhound is in the red shirt there. And so those are the 5 guys in the picture with Matthew McConaughey. It's a pretty cool picture.
Looks like trouble. I mean, look at that dude in there.
I mean,
can you
there's
imagine?
no doubt. Well, it's because he is
always
trouble.
making a joke, I'm sure.
Listen,
Yeah.
Yappy is just shenanigans central. We all know that, and that's cool.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure. So anyway,
he is.
He lives for shenanigans.
Yeah,
but we all do a little bit. Especially, I know you guys do too.
We keep it serious. We keep it just high and
Yes.
tight all the time.
yeah.
Life's too short to be joking. We need to take it seriously, Bruce, every single day,
That's right.
in every single way.
Yappy says that was right for the greatest scene in the movie. So they must have had a good time.
Guys,
Well,
what's going on this next week? Bruce?
Actually tomorrow, I'm going to be taking the observation hive for some school kids. There's a little local Christian private school here in town that last year I did this. They've asked me to come back this year. So be taking them some, just showing kind of a little show and tell beekeeping thing, just a few minutes with each group of the school there. This is a real small little Christian private school. And I'll be going through and trying to start stacking some honey supers, checking the overall health of the colonies. Tyler Walker has grafted from his bees. I may get a few queen cells from him and drop in some of my weaker colonies or some that are struggling. And just like we talked about, I was thinking I need to do splits, but I may just go and just drop some in the ones that I don't, that I don't like. If I got some that are nasty, I may drop them in there, and just his bees are good bees. And so I know that he keeps his bees. He sells a lot of nukes, and so he keeps his good, healthy, strong, and good with a good attitude of bees. And so I'm going to try some. I'm going to get a few. They just did it for fun. They have a few cells. I'm going to just drop in some hives. We'll see how that goes. And so, but mostly going to be focused on getting some honey super stacked and just kind of peeking on the colonies. And that's about it for this week. I don't have a lot, and that's kind of where we're kind of going into that holding pattern where it's just let's just try and make some honey. I'm also going to reach out to Mick Fry. Mick was on here earlier with Simple Comb. And Mick talked to me a little bit. I got 2 more supers where I got 20 more frames worth of, so I guess it's 160 Simple Comb cassettes. It's 20 frames worth from him at the Bee Expo. And I'm going to try that again. He has them now. For those who tried Simple Comb last year and had to struggle with it, they've actually retooled everything. The pattern in the little cassettes is oriented properly the way the bees would do it. So now the point is up and down instead of sideways. Also, he has redesigned those completely to where they'll fit any frame. You can put them in there easily, and you don't have to buy certain frames. And so he went through and just redid. I'm sure it cost him a lot of money to just redo everything. He basically redid it, and he improved those Simple Comb cassettes that you put in the frames. So I'm going to try and get a hold of Mick and or Madison here in the next few days. And before I actually put it in the colonies, it may still be a few weeks out before I do that, and see about a strategy that'll work a little better. And I've got some ideas. He told me about something at the expo I'm going to try to review with him. A little bit different than just stacking a whole super on a colony. There's a little different way to do it that I think is going to work a little better, but I want to clarify with that and see. I'd like to get quite a few of those to sell. You can sell them, I think, for probably minimum $10 a piece, probably. And if you got just say 100 of those, just do the math. I mean, 100 of those is, or if you get 80, which is a super's worth of it, if you get 80, they're completely full and sellable times 10, that's $800. That's a good little amount of money. And so,
yeah,
I'm going to try that out again this year and maybe do it a little bit differently. I'm just going to try and get some advice from him. Or he said there was a guy that just has bought a lot from him and had a lot of success. I may actually get his number and just talk to him directly if Mick will give me his information, if that guy will let me talk to him and kind of see what the strategy is for success. Last year I had, I think 32 that would have been sellable out of 80 when I just put a super on top of the colony, which was not bad, but that's $320. I'd like it to be better though. And I think there's a way to do it. I'm going to try and figure that out. So those are some things I have on tap coming up in the future. As far as videos go, I don't know if I have anything really planned or what I have planned coming up. People really liked my video where I slowed down, took my time, went frame by frame and showed my technique on that. But I do like to show principles and vlogs and, try and go through more colonies as well. So we'll see how that goes. And next week, a week from now, we'll do the StreamTeam on my channel. And I've been thinking about what I want to do with that, and we'll discuss that afterwards, guys. But don't really have a lot of real crazy stuff going on. We've kind of done all the crazy splits that I want to do. There may be a few more here or there, but the crazy splitting season is pretty much over for me as far as.
Wow.
And so, I mean, I'll be doing a few here or there, but I'm not going to go in and just try to increase my numbers dramatically and just to break them way down. It's too late to do that because I want to make honey. I don't want to do these big, strong, huge splits and break my colonies way down and then not make any honey. So I'm kind of at that stage to where I need to focus on building strength and getting these colonies big and strong and some of them are, but that's kind of where I'm at. So that's it for now. And who knows what's coming on with the YouTube channel. I'm thinking about trying to do one of those live, just Q&A type things I did a couple times back a few months ago. Maybe Sunday evening, but we'll see if I get a chance to do that. And so that's where we're at, just kind of in that holding pattern. Let's make some honey.
Mm-hmm. Bruce here, Dwayne, he had said he won the Instant Vape Light. So thanks, Bruce, for the Instant Vape Light giveaway. Thanks, Greg, Brian, and Rob at Lorob's.
Yeah, that really originated with Rob. He sent me that to try out, and he told me to pay it forward to do what I wanted to do with it, and that's what we decided to do with it.
Awesome.
So. But Dwayne, I'm glad you enjoy it. And I appreciate you guys for chipping in on that as well. I'm sure, it would have been okay coming from me, but from all three of us, that was a real special gift for him. And I appreciate y'all helping me out with that.
I've got some shenanigan videos from that. We'll have to find a way to get out there. Just
you need
Brian and I
post
goofing off doing it.
We could do it as an intro for one of our StreamTeam videos or during one of our StreamTeam.
There you go. That'd be cool.
Fun.
Yeah.
Don't ask me what kind of donut I like, because the only answer you're going to get is any.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brian, what are you up to this week?
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, seeing how the weather is going to dip down, I probably will not touch the bees. I did check their weight, and they were solid for weight. I mean, they folks will see. Now, I did film a video, so folks will be able to see. I mean, there was a decent amount of capped out honey still in that upper box. 2 of the colonies completely annihilated the fondant, so I pulled those out. I did throw some of the bee bites in, one of the little bars, so they got that in there just to help out with that, with the gut health, the strong microbials, get that in there. But after probably another, I'd say 9 or 10 days, then I'll probably get more involved with the bees. But it's just going to be like prep. I'm still going to continue. Like I've already told Tara, I need to get over, and I want to have everything set and ready. That way, when it hits, I'm not already backed up into a corner. So it's going to be prep. I'll probably take next week. 40s, truthfully, it's not bad. I can go over, I can scrape frames, I can prep boxes and do stuff like that. 40s is not bad. But that's going to be it there. I will be on Monday on Grayson's live. So I'll be on Wildwoods. Grayson tossed out an invite, and he has a couple times, and it's just my schedule got so chaotic. And he pinged me about a month ago and said he'd like to have me on. And I said, buddy, 2 of my Sundays in March are pretty much going to be gone because I'm not going to be in the country. So, but this lined up that then next Monday I'll be on there. So it'll be 7 p.m. Central, the same 8 p.m. Eastern like we normally do. So I'll be on, looking forward to that, getting on and chatting with Grayson. So, but other than that, really not much. I mean, the next week is going to be, I think, probably, and Greg, you're going to find out this as well. Next week's probably going to be the last kind of mellow week before the activity just goes.
Come on. Just dial it back. Dial it
Dial
back.
it in. I know.
Dial
You
it
see
back.
what I'm doing? We got to dial
Oh,
it in.
I say dial it up. Let's dial it up, man.
Come
Let's go
on,
to all,
Bruce.
Dial it up.
let's go to red line. Let's go pure red right here.
Pure red.
You need to get busy up there, man. You've been slacking.
Yeah. No, and I am looking forward to it, and that's why I need to get stuff ready. So, but Greg earlier though, what's that commercial with the guy and he's got like the dollar on the fishing hook and he's like, "Ooh, you almost got it." And he's teasing. That's what he was doing earlier. He's teasing. He's like, there's going to be sales this weekend and there's going to be, he's teasing. He's throwing that little hook out there and he's just, I see what he's doing. So I see it, but that's all here. So, Mr. Burns, I almost even hate to say, what do you have going on in the next week?
Let's just talk about the next couple days. Tomorrow, a great webinar put on by Hive Alive. They've asked me to be a part of it. You can check it out. There'll be links on the Hive Alive Facebook group. We'll share them on all the places too. But it's Hive Alive Spring Strategies for Thriving Bees with the one and only Dara Scott. Great guy, very tall guy. You'll know if you've never got a chance to meet him. The guy is like, he's got to be 9 feet tall, easy, maybe 10 feet tall. I mean, he might as well be a giant. The dude's just so incredibly tall. Great guy though. Yeah. Awesome dude. Going to be working with him and his team to kind of talk about the pros and the features and benefits of Hive Alive and how that can actually really help folks with their bees. So jumping into the spring with healthy bees is a big deal, especially coming off of the type of year that a lot of us have had. So how can we boost our bees? How can we jumpstart them? How can we get the most out of them? We're going to be talking about that tomorrow night, Thursday at 8 p.m. You'll see links everywhere for that. So come on in and join the fun there. Friday, Saturday, the shop is open. We've got EnduraHive wax dipped equipment on sale. We're also taking orders for packages and nukes. And it's just a lot of fun this year, man. There's just so many great collaborations, a lot of great folks that we're working with. I'm really excited to work with folks like Maxon, folks like Apis Engineering, Premier Bee Products, Mike's Easyox, folks who are really working hard to make made in America great again. That's really important to me, and I think it's really important to a lot of other beekeepers. You can't complain about the price of funny Chinese honey influencing the market and negatively affecting your bottom line with your honey if in the same on the same coin you're using nothing but Chinese made, all of your extraction equipment, everything that you do. Like, you can't complain about Chinese honey influencing your bottom line on selling your honey if everything that you do is off Chinese equipment. So it's not easy to make made in America. It's not cheap to make made in America, but it's supporting American families, supporting American industry, especially the steel industry. If we're going to make America great again, we've got to make made in America great again. I'm pumped up. I'm fired up. I'm supposed to be calming down so I can go to bed tonight. I'm getting myself worked up, but I'm really excited. It's an incredible blessing to collaborate with all the folks that I just mentioned and so many more who are dedicated to that. It's a big deal. So that's what's on the forefront right now. Lots of other great places we'll be speaking at, traveling to, some videos that we're working on. We've got one we're working on right now with artificial insemination and several other videos too. But Bruce threw out the simple comb thing there. And I just got to say, man, it was so great to see Mick and Madison not that long ago. And we're looking forward to collaborating with them as well. And actually running a trial yard with the new improved Simple Comb cassette. Because like Bruce said, their last product, great product, beautiful product, just had some challenges with that fitting nicely with all of the different types of frames. But they heard the beekeepers' concern. They did something about it. And I am really pumped up because now those new Simple Comb cassettes, they fit in the best frame in the market, the premier frame. That's a big deal. So that's going to open up all of our customer base. It's going to open us up, being able to really use that efficiently and effectively in our operation too. So really looking forward to that. It's going to be awesome. So all that to be said, if you're in the area, make sure you stop by the shop this Friday, Saturday. Also, I'm going to throw this out there as well. If you are in the Ohio area and you are hearing this chat and you have dead bees, you have dead outs, feel free to go ahead and take some of your dead bees, put them in a Ziploc bag, and bring them out to the shop, and we'll sample them for you. We'll let you know what we see. We're going to put them under the microscope and just be able to rule out Nosema cerani. It's helpful to at least be able to rule one of those things out. You know, after all of the rigmarole and nonsense and millions of dollars spent to try to get to the bottom of, you know, the CCD of past, they still don't have a lot of answers at all, other than Nosema cerani may have been a contributing factor to that. So that's at least one thing that we can do, is at least rule that out. And so you may not have a microscope. You might know how to do that. That's okay. Just bring a handful of bees in a Ziploc bag from one of your dead outs. We'll do our best, try to take that sample for you, and we'll let you know what we see. We'll see if we see those spores, and then maybe that'll help you dial in your beekeeping season for 2025. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight and hanging on for so long. Guys, it's 2 hours. I can't even believe it's 2 hours. It's 2 hours.
That's crazy.
And here we are.
Sure is.
Unbelievable. All night thanking everybody, but I just want everyone to know how much we appreciate you guys hanging in there, supporting on the social media, the YouTube channel, the comments, all the crosstalk back and forth. You guys are awesome. Next week, we're going to be on Bruce's channel, 8 p.m. Eastern. What does Bruce have in store for the StreamTeam community? Don't miss it. It's going to be awesome. Until then,
It's going to be
I want to remind you, it's going to be huge, to be the lighthouse and be the change you want to see in this world. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.